Alright, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. I am your host, Konrad Rogoz. It's This Week in Tyranny, episode 145. Today is Sunday. It is. Who cares what day it is? South Park once again predicts the occult sacrifice and long live the king. King Charles, of course. That's the title. So, hello everyone. Welcome to my beloved, loyal audience. And hopefully, welcome some new faces, right? So, by now, everyone, you've seen the title of the video, so you got some kind of an idea of what I think about this and how I feel about Charlie Kirk's being brutally killed in public and on video. But before I get into any of that, and I have a lot to get into, I want to offer my serious and genuine respect for Charlie, his family, and everyone that loved him, including just everyone out there in the world. And that's not for show, it's not for formality. I'm serious. Before I even start, I'm going to say a lot, and I'm going to say a lot that isn't very kind. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is a man got brutally killed who was not harming anyone. The guy was not harming anyone at the time. He wasn't doing anything to anyone. No one deserves that, you know? There's a very small, specific group, specific kind of people who deserve that kind of a treatment to happen to them, and Charlie Kirk was not one of them at the end of the day. And actually, the entire reason that I speak publicly and even make videos and publish stuff is to stop acts of violence like this from happening. So I think you can tell already where I'm coming from. I'm not really personally biased or emotionally engaged here. And I think that comes from two things. One is I've really been studying these terrorist attacks, mass shootings, catastrophes, assassinations. I've seen a lot of them over time. I grew up on the internet as this thing was developing, and I was always skeptical. Like from when I first learned English in 2006, 2007, I'm looking at this stuff. So it was shady to me then. That's reason one. Reason two is I'm a person that's very sensitive to repetition. I so I can be like very routine oriented in some things like what I eat. But when I see a thing happen again and again, or when I notice patterns that are out of my control, and I'm seeing them happen and they're unavoidable, I take that very personally. I don't deal with it well. It kind of upsets me. I tend to actually respond to that pretty aggressively when I'm noticing things reoccurring that I don't like. That's kind of vague, I know, but that's my personality anyway, right? So with those two things in my corner, I approach this video head on, this topic, and quite frankly, I think I have some of the most healthiest and most reasonable view on mass casualty events, which means terrorist attacks, assassinations as well. Big traumatic events. I really think I got a handle on what it's all about, and I'm gonna actually do something that people don't do. Is I'm gonna define my view. Okay, I'm gonna tell you what I'd actually. You can go back and hold me to it in 10 years. This is what I think about these killings, these big time political killings, as well as mass shootings and terrorist attacks that we see. And it is effectively all the prominent acts of violence or destruction in society, the assassinations, the terrorist attacks, the mass shootings. They're done by or facilitated by, at the very least, they're made possible by government, military, and intelligence. That overlap and the overlap and the coordination required for that seemingly unlikely claim to be true, that's accounted for by recognizing the prevalence, the influence, and the history of occult orders, and the way that occult orders control government, military, and intelligence. And eventually they control all the world's institutions, regardless of nation or culture. That's my view. Is that when something like this happens, because of how prominent Charlie Kirk is, and because of the things that have to go right for it to go down, it falls into my view of this is done by that order. The killing of Charlie Kirk was no different. There's clearly coordination here, there's clearly an agenda here. But there, before we get to that, there's a whole plethora of things that this was not. So I want to touch on all of that first and tell you what I don't agree with, what I've seen, and things that I think are actually out of touch with reality, what I absolutely can't stand about the public response, all this stuff. I'm going to get into that, and then to close the show, I'm going to go into the occult symbolism as I usually do with these things, the significance of the killing of Charlie Kirk, the significance of all the symbolism as it pertains to the purpose of this killing and the agenda behind it. And really, by the end of it, that's why I'm trying to rush my intro. I I had a lot that I put in this, and by the end of it, I wanted to be like a work of art because it blew my mind what I discovered, uncovered, just investigating. At the end of the day, my investigation is just fucking clicking links on my computer. That's all I've done, and I've uncovered things that blow my mind. There's a lot to learn in this world. So to begin, I want to separate myself from the people, especially online, who are very quick to jump and say fake and staged. Fake, stage, and hoax. Anything that happens is fake, right? These are people who I agree with on a level of coordination and a hidden agenda. We agree partially, but we disagree on how basic reality works with a lot of these people online. You know, some of them may be bots, but they're not all bots. Some people, they just jump to that it's all a show, that it's all just a Hollywood movie done in front of the world. And we've seen that Hollywood movies can be played out in front of the world. But that respect for reality to actually analyze the event and look at what happened. I've always said that it is much, much easier to kill someone than to stage someone being killed. I'm hesitating if I should bring it up because my video is going to get taken down. The time where that wouldn't be true is with like small children, because that's not that easy to do. Even if you have I'm getting ahead of myself, but even if you have an MK Ultra, even if you have a group of assassins, if you're talking about going into like an elementary school like Sandy Hook, that is a time where you would employ, where you wouldn't do it. That is a time where you wouldn't just take the shot. That is a time where you would stage it. Okay, just thinking rationally here, right? But in any other circumstance, it is much easier to actually kill the person you're trying to have that event with. So I don't understand why people are drawn to this view so strongly that it never happened. Because if there is a shadowy group that controls mass perception, why wouldn't they just kill him? Why wouldn't they just kill him? Where do people think that say this shit? Where do they think Charlie Kirk currently is? Is he on an island with Tupac and Jeffrey Epstein? Are they playing cards in Valhalla? No human group would do that, to be hiding them underground somewhere or doing some other things like that. I mean, to remove someone from society and relocate them with their existence would jeopardize their entire operation. Why would you do that? Unless you're saying that Charlie Kirk never existed, he was never there in Utah speaking, and clearly he did. Clearly he did speak at that college. If you can prove otherwise, I'm open to it. So, I really just want to get this out of the way before I get in there, but I need to talk to these people that everyone that is saying it's all just a video show and Kirk is alive, it only would make sense if it was a supernatural entity controlling things, or if the world is a simulation, because any human organized crime group would do the thing that makes sense on every level, which is to kill him, if you were trying to do that. And the world is not a simulation, and it's not supernatural entities that are controlling things. It's just not the case, man. Humans are putting on this light and smoke show. Humans are carrying out these agendas. Humans are carrying out this violence, and only humans are going to stop them. That's the view I take, because otherwise, you're just like a pet. You're like a pet on a leash. You're a house cat. You know, I'm not a house cat. I think we can actually stop these people. Now, when it comes to human interaction, of course, spiritual forces are at play, but nothing actually happens without humans embodying those forces and actually performing those actions. As to people who go for the blood hose thing, and I honestly feel like a lot of the people just haven't seen a lot of videos of people getting killed. That shot to the neck and his physical reaction to that shot is very consistent with footage that I've seen from war, from executions, cartel videos, all that good stuff, you know, that is on the internet. And if there is something that's fake, I point out fake shit right away. Trump's attempted assassination in Butler, Pennsylvania, I said it was fake as hell, start to finish. He never got hit in the ear. You know, that, and just breaking it down, you know, when you see Charlie get shot, there's the fencing response, like the stiffness of the fingers, the mechanics of the shockwave and the blowback. It all seems very real. When you take the eye test on this, that's 100% ballistic trauma on video. So that is where I would agree with the mainstream story, at least, right? But there are two things in the video that made me question that. Okay, so I'm gonna play devil's advocate a little bit. Not really. One of these things was pointed out by Presence, who is a super dope and talented musician who actually puts real truth and freedom and natural law in his music. You should check him out. And he did a video about this quick. It was awesome to see him analyze this and tackle that topic, and I thought he did a great job of it. He has some good quality. He has some of the best quality, like good angle, frame by frame breakdown, good quality video, showing that on here on the side of Charlie's shirt, there's a very distinct rising right when the bullet hits, but only like a tiny surface area of it. So it's like this. It comes up like 6 inches, and the implication there is that he had something under his shirt, like a hose, like the way they do in Hollywood movies, where when you pop that thing, then the liquid that is inside that hose, it spills out, and then you have the blood effect. Okay, fake blood, essentially. That is the implication of what Presence was pointing out, a la slasher movie. Why I would push back on that is, you've seen the amount of blood and the apparent pressure of the flow, right? You've seen how much it was. You can't get it with a half-inch hose. It's like more than you would get with a garden hose. If you turn the garden hose on full, it's not that much. So you think about the volume. You think about the size of the vessel that is necessary to contain that much liquid. Well, it's the vessel of the actual aorta or jugular vein or whatever it was that got hit. It's like bigger than a garden hose. It's like a big tube. You would need a big tube and have the blood under pressure, you know? Human blood pressure is pretty high. You know, it's not a pressure, it's not like a pressure washer, but it's pretty high. So that's what you would need, and I think it's very questionable. I mean, he didn't have that under his shirt. That's what I'm saying. It would have to be like a 1-inch diameter hose, and then if it is a 1-inch diameter hose, or if somehow you can get that much, where is the volume coming from? Is he connected to a tank? Is he padded down with his pant sleeves are full of red pouches, liquid pouches like the Michelin Man, and it all comes out looking like that? And of course, if that is the case, then the guy, then he knows, right? So if that was done, then clearly the actor in that case would be participating in it. So then you have to take a look at everything he did, the way he reacted, and say he's a good fucking actor, right? And listen, I call him out, but not to like publicly go in a back and forth, because Presence did this very well. I thought he did it very respectfully. I thought he was reasonable and wise in what he brought up and suggested. So my ridicule is not towards him. It's actually kind of towards someone else, but I won't mention them by name because they've done a lot of good work, and I just don't want to be the guy that's punching at other channels. I don't think they deserve the Alex Jones treatment from me, so I won't mention that. But and look, I'm sorry if I sound like I have an attitude and an ego about this, but it has really gotten on my nerves, this situation. Especially how quick everyone is to come out of the woodwork. They haven't made a video in a while, and then they're going to make their Charlie Kirk video. Everybody's done it. They have their video, now I have mine. It always upsets me that I have to jump into the chorus, but this is what I do. I talk about the biggest, most important thing and get people off of the distraction and towards actual solutions, actual topics. But anyway, you got established long-term channels making like elementary reporting and logic mistakes, and that's passing as truth-seeking content. That pisses me off. We need to be better than the early 2000s reptilian shapeshifter videos, and that's the vibe I've been getting. Is that the standard has not increased for what we report when we have really good access to information pretty quickly as these channels. And I'm a low budget channel. I got a red light making me look like I'm about to let you into a Dutch nightclub, you know? Fucking low budget. But I care about this, okay? I might as well be talking to the whole nation on the 10 o'clock news, because that's how I take this. And speaking of that, I do want to get into the second thing in that shooting video that made me stop and question myself. One was this thing with the shirt. I actually had to think about it. I said, that's interesting. Now, I do think that just a bullet traveling that fast, it's a small surface area, but a very high velocity traveling at that surface area. So it creates a vacuum. So then a portion of the shirt, which is loose hanging fabric, it could go up to go into that vacuum, right? That's just physics, right? But the second thing is the ring. There's a ring situation there, and you can see. I'm not showing the footage because I don't want to show this man's death many times over and over to make these points. You can watch it yourself. You can see in the original video that when you slow it down, the ring on his ring finger, his wedding ring, slides down after he is shot, and then it seems to lock onto the pinky finger, and that is something. That is something that I really had to look into. But not long after, it came out like within the next day that Charlie actually wears a hinged wedding ring, so it could open and close pretty easily. There's actually a video of him playing with it, right? So mystery solved, right? We jumped the gun. The conspiracy theorists jumped the gun. Well, actually, even with the hinged ring, and I'm fine with that, but it does seem like it. How would it close on the pinky finger, and why? Why would it settle down here? It really does appear to lock in place. And after that, it continues to fall, so it actually doesn't lock in place, or maybe it does, and then it unlocks again. But if you're watching me do it, by the way, you should be watching me do this because I'm going to have a lot of images and stuff. I'm going to have a lot of images that I'm going to refer to. It's going to be a long show. Then it continues to fall off the pinky, and it's in the air, the last frame that I could find, right? Again, I'm going over these things, not going frame by frame because it's been done, and it's really not the focus. The focus is not the detailed minutia. I'm not over here studying the size of the ring. I'm really not into being another channel to really go in depth and analyze this man's death and dissect it frame by frame. So the mysterious ring was revealed to be a hinge ring. My response to it was this already before we figured out that it was a hinged ring. All that proves is the video footage was altered, right? That still doesn't prove anything. So there's a video where they faked it. It doesn't prove anything. Say the video was AI. So what? So what? It's just like the moon landing. Okay, they faked the moon landing. Does that make the flat Earth model true? With the Earth and the Sun running a circular tract around the equator? Does that hold up objectively? My answer is no. Because the Sun and the Moon are in equal size. And there's a mathematics to it. There's a freaking resonance to it. And, yeah. So, the moon landing, there's a big assumption to make from the moon landing to, so we never went to the moon, so the Earth is flat. That's the kind of shit that happened. But when you analyze some of the craziest footage we have available, like on September 11th, there are some interesting things, like when the JFK assassination and September 11th specifically. That moment on September 11th where you see the plane going into the building, you see all these weird pixels unaccounted for, and video glitches. And that's why the no planes theory, it's absolutely possible that they never flew planes into those buildings. But the bottom line is, that morning there were 2 big fucking towers in New York. And then the day after, they were gone. No more towers. So I'm just calling for people to remain in touch with reality. Because there were like hundreds of college students that were there. They weren't all actors. Charlie Kirk was advertised to appear there, to speak at an event, and he was there. And that's what happened. But still, the videos, there's a weird thing about some videos sometimes. And I coined this term digital quantum uncertainty. It's almost like it's almost like the disappearing electron. There's some, and this doesn't happen in the real world, but it happens in the digital footage. And then you have the Mandela effect. For those of you that know about the Mandela effect, I think it's completely limited to the digital space. I don't think the Mandela effect occurs in real life. I really think it's since we've gotten TV and now phones. It's always movies. You think about all of the Mandela effects. Now the Bible is another one, but that's I don't want to focus on that one so much. So you're really talking about publications, reproductions of data, of information, like a lot of lines in movies and the color of C-3PO's leg. They're like weird fucking video glitches. As to what happened here, though, I always say that it is way easier to kill someone than to fake killing someone. And to reiterate, who's responsible for the killing of Charlie Kirk? It's the combination of government, military, and intelligence. And not necessarily just American, because the occult overlap operates beyond those delineations. It's not just American intelligence, it's other nations. And that I can state with total certainty. As to the details, the ring, what is here, I don't know. I don't have that certainty, obviously. And it really gets on my nerves when people pretend that they know exactly what happened. I don't know why people do this. Because at the end of the day, you and I weren't there. So we can't say we know. And how the logistics of this shooting went down, we just will never know. Like, the details, how many people knew about it. These are the important things to ask if you're claiming to know what they did. How many people knew? Was the shooter the guy that the police are going to claim? Because it could be, but also could not be. He could have never been there. Were the other shooters in place as backups? How many of them? Right? So this shooter, was he trained? Was he trained by the military, like a lot of guys are? Is his dad connected to, Masonic or military fraternities? Or did he himself even know? Did the shooter know? Is he an MK Ultra subject or a Manchurian candidate type guy? Was he just schizophrenic and he got an electronic message to do that, right? Because personally, I think that's how these events go down a lot of the time. With a signal, a remote signal. If you don't agree with that's possible, I think you should do more research on declassified MK Ultra documents and Zersetzung, the Stasi practice. It's like the Stasi MK Ultra. There are all these variables, right? And I don't reject different permutations of all those different variables. There are varying levels of coordination on these events. Some events is like total coordination. There was knowledge before, full coordination, people knew it. 9/11 to me is the peak example of coordination and symbolism. That seemed like it was planned for hundreds of years. Like 100 years. Sandy Hook is somewhere up there, to me. Then you have like the 7/7 London bombing. I thought it was significant. And then you have these other ones that, who really knows how much coordination was there, but they're definitely part of the agenda. Like the Covenant school shooting that I covered. The October 7th attack on that Nova Music Festival in Israel. That, of course, began the invasion of Gaza. Things like that. The Uvalde shooting. There was a shooting at a school in Colorado. Actually, the same day. But that could have been not one of these events. I would lean towards saying that wasn't one of them, right? That you have actual like normal shootings, like on a daily basis. That there's no agenda there. And at a certain point, you create the conditions. When the conditions are created, a certain mentality, then you're going to have copycat assassinations. You're going to have acts of violence that can happen without any much coordination at all. So it's like you just create the petri dish and you just let it go. And that shit goes down the way you set it up. For information on that, I always refer people to the book by David McGowan, Program to Kill. When you put all this stuff together, I really think when you research that, you put a lot of it together. So how do I know that the killing of Charlie Kirk was an occult sacrifice operation? Well, the symbolism is there, advancing the agenda is there, and it's very prominent. Okay, it's not just some guy. The nuts and bolts of how the operation is done is not going to be the focus. It should not be the focus. There's going to be some level of uncertainty that's always going to be there. And the thing about uncertainty is it increases as your zoom level increases. So the more you focus in on the details, the more you're not going to get a 100% answer. In life, often it is zooming out that gives you the clearer picture. So let's do that. Let's zoom out from the nuts and bolts and just talk about humanity, because that's the most important here thing. How we as human beings are going to respond to Charlie's killing. So I've noticed There are two reactions, just like there are two political parties. The first thing everyone gets hit with is the shock, the outpouring of support, the outrage, the horrified reaction, which you'd expect. But the unfortunate thing is, in the social media era, people say the same things, so you tend to see the same cliches, sound bites, thoughts and prayers, the typical thing, the thing that the most of the mass of people are going to agree with. That's the loudest voice. It's just the unfortunate reality of an online environment where people got to talk louder and louder just to be heard. Um, and the frequency of these traumatic events are getting higher and higher. It's like our threshold for caring about things is getting higher and higher. It's like societal desensitization. It's inflation of our value system, actually. So you get this traumatized reaction from people, especially the conservatives, especially people who um, cared about Charlie. But then you get the equal and opposite reaction just because of the way it's set up. For a whole variety of reasons, you get the opposite reaction. People who are opposed to Charlie ideologically, didn't like him personally, people whose family members have been deported, right, by ICE, and Charlie Kirk advocates for it. Then there's people who are abused by priests, and then Charlie Kirk advocates for the church structure. Or even just people that don't really care. But they're pushed away by this unified online voice of sympathy and horror. And I'm not gonna lie, I felt that cynical cold reaction at first. That was just the first thing that hit me. But really, both are misguided. And a man's public killing should not be a rope for you to do a tug of war with. It should just not happen. And honestly, the way I see it, what it comes down to is this argument. I hate this argument. This happens and everybody says, oh my god, look at what happened. So the reaction, the cynical reaction is, oh, you care about this? Well, there's this thing over here that's just the same. You should care about that, but you don't care about that. I care about more than that than I care about this. And this happens all the time. This happens in the natural law freedom movement all the time. And I've done it before. It's like, it's such a typical thing. Be like, oh yeah, well, take a look at this. You didn't say anything about that. And at the end of the day, what is the point that's being made? There is no point. The conversation is not going anywhere. And I've done this before, several times. I hope I never do it again. The bottom line is that it is abhorrent that a person who is just speaking with people, not bothering anybody, can be brutalized and taken out of life publicly. I agree with that. But so is Gaza. It's true. The whole thing that's going on over there should have the same level of outrage. You know? And I just did it again. Like that's what we're talking about here. But I'm trying to correctly identify the brutality in society from the highest to the lowest levels of society, because this political assassination, like Charlie's, is just like that guy killing that girl on the train. Same exact thing. I make there's no real difference in the real world of what happened. It was a person that was innocent that just got fucking destroyed and killed in front of people. And I'm gonna talk about that train stabbing, but just to finish this up, we get into the swing of how much do we care about this, right? You're either forced to join in that unison of the chorus of platitudes and cliche sympathy. It's not that it's fake sympathy. It feels like fake. It feels fake to me. But the point is, it's just not worth much. And if you're not going to do that, then you're forced into the cynical position, where you're basically saying, I don't care about this like the rest of you do. We need to stop doing this. Let's talk about what we have in common. None of us want to live in a world where somebody can just be taken out of life for no reason. And that would include all of those illegal immigrants, okay, that are getting deported now. Forget saying, oh, they broke the law, they crossed the border. Bottom line, Charlie was not doing anything to anyone. You could say, oh, he was causing harm because he was supporting the president, he was supporting the war, he was saying that women shouldn't be allowed to do A, B, and C. Bottom line, he wasn't doing anything to anyone. Same as these illegal immigrants that are being arrested, taken off the street, they're not doing anything to anyone. Same shit. 2 days ago on Friday, cops killed someone 5 minutes from my house. I stopped them, and who knows what happened. One thing led to another, right? We don't have video of it, and he's dead. That's right by my house, man. But this with Irina Zarutska, this Ukrainian girl on the train. I let this marinate for a while. I'm glad I did, because I do care and I don't want to say things insensitively. But I was just personally much more deeply affected by the killing of Irina Zarutska than I was Charlie Kirk. Both were on video. This affected me a lot more. I won't show the video. I'll obviously show you this picture, which is disturbing in itself. And this happened August 22nd. The video only came out 1 week ago on Friday, right? And this guy is just sitting behind her on the subway, and all of a sudden he gets up, slashes her, stabs her, walks off. She dies soon afterwards. People pointed out the bystanders not doing anything. Yes, it sucks. People hate. We all hate when people that just do nothing. But I don't think people have been around violence that much, and don't think they realize how quickly it happens. You don't magically spring into action on a bus. I think a lot of people didn't even see this, and a lot of the people who take the bus, who take the subway, or the train, I believe this was the train. You see dumb shit happening all the time. You don't know what kind of a dynamic this was. It's just way too normal in the city, and I don't know if this was the inner city area, but you would expect this. You expect bullshit to happen on the subway, because the problem is we have cities where you got groups of shady ass black guys hanging out by the trains. Do I have a problem with black guys? Obviously not. I don't. That's kind of who I grew up on. It's who I grew up with. So, I would hate to even make the racial thing, because I think the race thing is stupid as fuck. But it's a red herring anyway, because it's not that the guy's black. It's just this is the lowest possible element of black society. It's the lowest of the low, but it's there. There's a group of people like this, and for some reason people like this just happen to hang out on trains and subways and shit like that. One time I was at 530 North Lakeshore Drive. I was on Lakeshore and Grand, and this guy must have been homeless, right? But I don't know if he was. But he pushed a cart right between me and someone I was talking to, like launched it past me, and I moved out of the way, and then there was like a moment, and he just kept walking. I should have beat that motherfucker down within an inch of his life, man, because I think these are those type of people that could just snap. Like, I wasn't doing anything to anyone, and he just really, doesn't. That shopping cart was like a legit, like, metal shopping cart. Like, it wouldn't have killed me, obviously, right? But that is violence, and this is the issue. You got some people that are off the rails. They're off the rails mentally. They're not there, and they got nothing to lose, and they just get into all kinds of situations, and there are no repercussions for them. But then you got people like Irina, who is in the same place as that guy, just because she's trying to get to home from her job. Otherwise, they would not be in the same place ever, right? Because let's be real, this fucking guy with the dreads, he wasn't going to a job interview. He was probably hanging out, getting into shit all day, just fucking lost. And you have to think about what happens in the mind, mentally ill or not. If you do something like this, you have a fucked up view of boundaries, and you're blaming other people for your fucking problems. For me, the problem here is societally that it is not culturally acceptable to really hurt someone if they violate your boundaries. I think we should have that kind of, like, I should have been able to really hurt that guy with the shopping cart. But if I did, I'm sure I would have faced a lot of legal repercussions. Not to mention just the way it would look, right? If we lived in such a culture where self-defense was a part of society and it was respected, this guy, the Carlos Brown with the dreads, he would have been dead already, and she would be alive. That's what would have happened, because that wasn't the first time he's done some shit to someone. And his sister said that his behavior deteriorated after he was freed from prison in 2022, following a 5-year sentence for armed robbery. So what should happen to people that they do armed robbery, right? Well, you're pulling a gun on something or a weapon on somebody, you should get killed, blown the fuck down, right there. That's how I see that. And look, I've done armed robberies. I've been the victim of armed robbery. I know what I'm talking about with that shit. It's not right. You should not be in that position. So the thing though with prison, and people are talking about the mental health issue, the homelessness issue, he should have never been caged like an animal in the first place, because there's never a time for that. It's not normal to cage somebody like an animal. The whole rehabilitation thing just doesn't exist. And look, there are plenty of people who have been to jail and made it out and change after doing things that are much worse than armed robberies. I'm not saying you don't have value as a human. I'm saying you made a decision that at that point honestly should have took you out. That's the thing. You can easily make a big fucking mistake in the world. I got a car full of tools, and if I make the wrong move, I can cut my fingers off. They're never gonna grow back. Like, that's the world, man. That's what the world is. It shouldn't be coddled and controlled. There is a level of uncertainty and chaos in the way we're living now. He was caged like an animal in jail and then thrown into society, and society is not like living in nature. Society is tightly controlled and coordinated, like especially living in a city like Charlotte. It's not basic living. It's very specialized. There are things you actually have to agree with your neighbors, like when it's the time to sleep and when it's the time to play music. Like, these are very specific conventions. If you think about life and nature, like, those are very specific, high-level fucking conventions and agreements, because you should be able to, if you are mentally ill, live by yourself in nature. You can walk around naked. You can't do that in society, but you should still be able to live, right? You should absolutely be able to do that in nature. Who am I? Who is anybody to say you're mentally fit to live or not? We don't have that type of authority. So I got compassion for all my paranoid schizophrenics out there. But it's not anybody's job to take care of you. If you get violent, if you're violent, you get put down. That's how I see things. And then there's a whole political dialectic here. If we can get into homelessness and political, mental illness, that's a whole political thing. It would degenerate into the same thing as the arguments with the Charlie Kirk fallout. And there's a bunch of that, right? Now you got people saying this is war. Even like a woman said this is war, right? All this talk about civil war. Look, the train stabbing could be an operation just like the Charlie Kirk killing. My personal estimation, honestly, I think it's 50-50. It's a 50-50 if this was just something that happened or if it was actually directed to happen. Because this guy comes out saying that she was reading his thoughts and that it was due to what the government implanted in him, that he had like a chip in him. The issue with that is, one, the government, not just the USA government, but West Germany, like I said, on record, and of course others, they're on record experimenting on homeless people and criminals with electronic devices. They're on record. Okay, that is on record historically. But also, number two, claiming to have implants and being targeted by the government is an actual symptom of schizophrenia, and that has been around from before they even had the electronic devices. They're actually indistinguishable one from the other, right? So there's the issue, is which one is it? It could be either one. So say you wanted to hit this guy with a signal and make him stab this girl. That's nothing crazy. That's like 1960s technology. But at the same time, I was at Madden Mental Health Center in 2014, I think. They put me in with all the schizophrenics. We were all in one place, playing spades, chilling. And I've seen what it looks like, that kind of mental illness. You have a person that seems normal. It seems more normal and more of a good person than anyone you talk to outside. And his name was Versace. That's what we called it. His name was Versace. So he was awesome. He was like a really warm guy, man. But then he's talking to you and he sees something, and everything changes. Conversation over. It's just a different guy at that point, right? It's like you're not even there. That's the way that shit works in my observation. But back to Charlie here. Charlie and Irina's killings, they shocked the nation, especially the more conservative portions, right? Because it's a attractive white man and white woman, right? Obviously. So what is the result of this going to be? All these people will, no matter if you agree or disagree, all these people are going to double down on government. Right now, it seems like only the conservatives are doubling down on government because the liberals want to get that government out. But once they win the presidency and win at least the perceived driving, the perceived steering wheel of society, they're going to be more authoritarian, as we saw with the right. Because of course, this whole thing started out with the authoritarianism being coming from the left during COVID-19, and then the right wins the American government and other ones like Belarus, Brazil, and then you got the pushback. Now when the left, sorry, you don't get the pushback, you got an authoritarian blowback. It is you basically took over and started acting just like them. What's going to happen here. It's like the left is going to take over and they're going to act even worse than you did before. That's what's going to go down, man. Doubling down on government and also softening the right wingers on gun control and freedom, which they want to do. They want more control. This happens like mass shootings happens. They happen all the time, and everybody comes out and says, "This needs to stop now. Enough is enough. We're gonna stop it. We've had enough of this." And I hear this like again and again. I almost think to answer how. How are you going to stop it? And why now? Why is this the one that took you over the edge? Because you weren't there yet? Why? Like 9/11 wasn't enough? Sandy Hook wasn't enough? The last shooting wasn't enough to do this? So what are people actually doing to stop senseless acts of violence in society? What are they doing? Nothing. And actually, worse than nothing, people are supporting political action, supporting government, where this kind of violence not only happens every day, but it is cheered on, for God's sake. They stand there at the football games, they stand there with their uniforms on, and the world cheers them on. I mean, how many videos can I find of children in the Middle East being shot and bleeding out on camera just like this? But people are supporting that. People aren't dealing with the causal factors of violence, because that would lead you very quickly to the state and to central authority. It's not just them. They aren't the only progenitors of violence, but they most prominently are the ones making moral justifications for the violence. At least your average fucking rapist is not going to try to make it seem like it's God's mission. Okay? He's just going to be a piece of shit. And these pieces of shit in government and military are making moral justifications for their violence on a world scale. Charlie Kirk would have actually responded to this probably saying, well, actually, he is one of the ones who are dealing with the moral foundations of violence. He thought he was actually tackling the causal factors by being a Christian. By being a Christian, to which I would say, I don't remember everybody being so Christian 10 years ago. I know my dad was. Shout out to my dad, respect. But these are like your megachurch pastors. I see all these conservatives, they became real fucking religious in the last few years. And I think almost all the conservative voices are fake-ass Christians. I think they're fake-ass Christians. They quote the Bible when it's popular with their base. Just like Alex Jones. I don't remember him being so Christian. And it's just like every president when they win the office. It's like he could borderline be... he could be hanging out with Marina Abramovich, but on Twitter, he's still God bless America. This shit is so fake. This shit is fake, and this is probably too long and too deep in the episode to tell you that I'm sorry if I say something that you don't agree with. I know I'm going to offend almost everybody watching this at some point, but I hope you can hear me out because it's a very true reaction, and I actually do care. I'm not just like giving the middle finger to everyone. I actually do care about you hearing me out. But I know it's inflammatory, but I think it's necessary. And I stand on that shit. So, all these people that draw an arena like Charlie Kirk, they're supposed to be good because they quote the Bible. But every next candidate they support is literally a Judas. They're literally, so they're right there at the feet of the golden calf. They're worshiping Mammon. They're worshiping the golden calf because that's what every a president is, especially one like Trump, who's actually like seen as like a savior by these people. So every single young person that Charlie Kirk has influenced that is supposed to be like good, that's every person whose worldview maturity was delayed. It was delayed. That's what these voices do. I hesitate to call them good just because they're for conservative values. Each one of those college students that started listening to him, that's one more young man or woman that could have actually made a difference in the world. Instead, they looked at the Democrats in the idiot mirror. They looked at the left-handed idiots and stylized themselves as the opposite, a right-handed idiot. That's what you get from following a guy like this. Now, what is the actual solution to random acts of violence like this? Which, by the way, he was answering a question about mass shooters, trans mass shooters. His last words were gang violence. Ironically, he perpetuated the gang violence by supporting the biggest gang on earth, the government. The solution to gang violence, dodging a bullet, right, if one is there, stop babying people. Stop pushing the idea that institutions are there to take care of people. They're not. It wouldn't fix the issue overnight, but that is the fix. Stop giving people shit that they don't earn, man. And don't expect it to come from top down, because top down is how all the violence came down in the first place. The change starts with us, all of us, telling each other that all political action is bullshit. Only you are responsible for your welfare, your self-defense, your behavior, and your life. And what that means for me today is, I'm not sitting with my back to someone on the subway in a major city. I already wasn't doing that. I already sit by the window and I even park where I got a way out and all these ridiculous things. And that's what we need to do until we see the day where people don't have this delusion that society should treat them a certain way. And I'm carrying a gun until then. Now, people talk about mental health. It's not anybody's job or right to lock someone up and order a health evaluation. There are plenty of people like this guy with the dreads on this planet. They should be stopped at the first sign of aggression. Not before. You can never stop them before. And that's just the way it is. But they give signs. People give signs of who they are. They need to be stopped. Not because they're bad people. They were likely traumatized, right? They used to be a sweet little baby. And because of their experiences, they became who they are. But it is what it is. If you choose to speak the language of violence, that's the language you should be spoken back to in. So when Charlie Kirk campaigned for the president, campaigned for the state of Israel, he did the same thing. It's not exactly the same, but he openly campaigned for it. That would be like me openly campaigning for that guy with the dreads and the red jacket. If I did that, I'd be playing a dangerous game. And then if somebody chose to speak the language of violence to me, I would have nobody to blame but myself. People have said enough, and I agree, enough. Enough tears and prayers for people who didn't deserve them. The children deserve them. The children deserve your thoughts and prayers. And other people who don't publicly campaign for war. Like the Ukrainian girl on the train. So she deserves more. And I'm not saying Charlie deserved to die. But by supporting the current American government in the current climate that it is, you're stirring up the fucking hornet's nest, man. Everybody knows it. So, look, either it's war or not. People gotta stop being chicken shit, man. Do you really think it's civil war? Or are you just fucking talking and supporting what the politicians say? Because that's what I think it is. See, the left has been manipulated into having this militant energy. There's a lot of militant energy, and there are a lot of batshit crazy leftists that are gonna hit you on over the head in the street. Now, the conservatives, I don't know why you're supporting like a little power tripping tough guy like Homan and Trump, like who are really chicken shit cowards as well. Do you think these people would do something? Put the boxing gloves on them? It wouldn't last around. Uh, so you're kind of caught in between two. You're neither. You're neither really trying to be for peace, and you're not really trying to throw down. That's how I see it. Now, the left, wrong as it may ultimately be, where the outrage is directed, I think they're batshit crazy, the progressives. But a lot of these people are at least willing to die. They're at least willing to take action. The right, well, the traumatic reaction to violence, there's nothing wrong with that. That is the proper reaction to violence. We should be shocked. My issue is all these same people, they don't call out the lack of respect coming from a guy like Trump, the arrogance of him, that they don't call the blatant the threats, right, and the lack of respect for humanity from a guy like Homan, the immigration guy. So Charlie Kirk, that you chose your tribe, you made it tribal, you got the tribal treatment, and and then everybody is gonna hide behind the Bible as justification for telling people what to do, and acting like telling people what to do is okay because it was said so thousands of years ago. It's like everything is rational up to a certain point, and then you're just another guy trying to tell people what to do, just like the fucking progressives. It's just tribalism, and that's how it's always been. The liberal youth has always had the spirit of action and change. They've always been ready to sit somewhere and, like, what is the communist slogan? Throw yourselves on the gears of the machine, and right. And the conservative older section of society, they've always had the logic and reason. They could talk it out with you. They could explain themselves. They're like the adults in the room, right? Both are absolutely getting played like a fiddle. Both chicken shit when it comes to where the true change is, which is internal and deep to the core change. But in the last few years, it's gotten popular, this phenomenon of debating the young radical leftists, and it's supposed to be so impressive, and I don't see it. What is impressive about that? I was watching Charlie's most recent appearance at a college like this. He speaks very well. He's pretty likable. He has a strategy, he has a style, he has a charisma, and it makes for good social media content because he talks circles around them, and it passes the eye test for philosophical victory. It makes you think, okay, this guy is right. But all it is that these kids themselves, they don't know what they believe. So they don't take apart his premises. They don't counter the inconsistencies in any kind of a significant way. I really think I should start debating people because it will be a burial. I know what my worldview is, and nobody's making a meme out of me. But by debating college students, you're like setting yourself up for a slam dunk. It's like an alley-oop all the time. And they said he was courageous for going into these schools. It's like, is it really courageous just starting shit with people who disagree with you? Are you really going to change their mind? Is it courageous to like go into the ghetto and piss them off knowing the dynamic you're getting into? You're like, all I was doing was asking you a question. They got the camera. All I was doing was asking you a question. It's like you're not really going to change the world over there, Gandhi, Look, I also heard that he changed many people's lives and tried to reach the youth, and I'm sure he was impactful to many. Impact is a personal thing, right? So I can't say that he hasn't. That, but I have two big problems with that claim that he changed a lot of people's lives for the better and that he did good for the youth. So one big problem is Charlie's entrenchment with the Trump government and traditional values just pushes these kids more firmly into their tribes, whether they're left or right. It's just strengthening their position, making them ideologically and philosophically unchangeable. But number two, the lives he did change, for example, say there was a kid who was smoking weed and he was just playing video games. Then he saw Charlie Kirk speak and it inspired him, so he rejected his friend group. He started reading the Bible, trying to be a better man, He went out to meet a nice girl, and now he has a family. He'll learn the joy of providing for a family, experiencing fatherhood and all this. What bad can I say about that? Nothing, right? That would be a great thing. But here is the thing. If your pinnacle is a popular conservative commentator, if that's your inspiration, you're being held back. You're all being held back. All these big personalities and podcasts are stunting the growth of the youth. And I reject the idea that just because it's better than the alternative, then it's a good thing. No, it's still misleading them. It's still manipulating them. It's manipulating another generation into supporting a government that is killing them. Poison and torture. That's what the government is doing. So don't fuck with me on how good of a person he was. I don't want to hear it. He advocated for politics, which means he supported going into other countries and territories and killing civilians. Bottom line, no way to spin that. Irina Zarutska did none of that. She deserves a lot more. Bottom line. She deserved better. But we don't. We don't. The universe gives society as a whole what it deserves. Not on an individual level, but on a collective level. We are getting what we deserve. And you all politics supporters did this. I've been tuning into Alex a lot just to kind of gauge the pulse of the mainstream conservative population, right? And he was talking about coming out with a shirt and selling a shirt saying, "We are all Charlie Kirk now," showing that along the lines of speaking up and using and having courage and not backing down from this, not being in fear. The slogan was, "We are all Charlie Kirk now." I think the shirt that he should come out with, the more accurate slogan is, "We killed Charlie. We killed Charlie Kirk." That's what you all did. You killed them. And it makes me think of South Park, speaking of, right? Which I'll get to, all of this symbolism stuff. We've already been an hour into it. In South Park, they have a character named Kenny. And Kenny never talks. Really, he's just kind of, the whole character is kind of a gag. And in every episode, Kenny dies. Obviously not every episode, but it's known. It's like one of the paramount, trademark things about South Park is that Kenny will get killed in some kind of a crazy way, like the craziest, most brutal ways. And always the characters always say the same thing. Somebody says, "You killed Kenny," and then the other one says, "You bastards." So it's, "You killed Kenny, you bastards." And this is what I think it is with Charlie now. Charlie gets killed and everybody's outraged. "You killed Kenny, but you guys did this." See, Kenny, as a symbol, that's us. That is humanity in that actual. Because, look, if South Park has such a history of predicting shit and having predictive programming and things like that. There's a lot of symbolism in there. A lot of it I don't even know because I don't watch the show so much, but they talk about what is actually going on currently, like in current events. Kenny, he represents the innocent one, like humanity. So these South Park characters, they're like they're like the sociopaths, right? They take on all of these roles and they play out all of these societal characters and these tropes, and then they just go to the next episode with no consequences. They always survive, and Kenny always dies brutally. That's what Kenny's known for. What he's also known for is he never speaks. He can't speak because his hoodie covers up his mouth, so it's always like muffled. So he has this little adorable hoodie on. That's us, the ones who don't speak, who don't have a voice, and they're always a joke. They always are the ones who get killed. They're the ones who are brutalized every time over and over again. That's society. And how much they care about him, they're his friends, is always one sentence of outrage. "You killed Kenny, you bastards." Always the same shit. That's what all of you are going to do. All of you will do nothing. You're going to endorse more political action. Well, to me, what you saw was the epitome of political activism. That's it right there. That's political action. That's representative government. He got taken out for what he represents. That's peak representative government working exactly as intended. Because in representative government, you're going to have two large masses of people. I'm not saying about how it's written down in the Constitution. I'm saying how it actually is. how it actually is in reality. You have two large masses of people arguing about decisions that are going to affect all of them. And all of them are going to have to abide by that decision, like it or not. They don't get to live on their own. They don't get to just mind their own business. They have to do it. So the power structure then, whoever has the power, they're going to side with whoever wins. They're going to side with man's law. So the side that loses out, all the voices of dissent are going to be ostracized. So they're going to have only one way to speak. Bang! That's how they speak. That's the extent of the political action available to them at a certain point. What, you think it's just debate? You think the minority is just going to slowly rise their way through the channels of power, starting from local government up to the peak? I mean, this is a fantasy. This is a fantasy. It's just fucking two sides in an endless tug of war, an endless struggle. If you advocate for politics, you're advocating for political assassinations. That's what happens eventually. Because government is a progressive degenerative disease, okay? Like MS or something, right? So, as we bring in South Park, we're going to get into the occult symbolism now, okay? We've gotten warmed up a little bit. Occult symbolism, predictive programming, all the spicy shit that you're not going to get anywhere else. And I'm not just going to be out here pointing out 33s like some people do. But here's the 33. The 330th episode of South Park. It aired a month ago. It's called Got a Nut. 1 month ago this episode came out, and it's of course about Charlie Kirk. Legit. This episode was pulled from air a month later on September 11th following Kirk's murder the day prior. So in this episode, Charlie Kirk, Eric Cartman is basically playing Charlie Kirk. He's trying to become the best. He wants to be the master debater. He wants to be the best debater, so he goes out doing the Charlie Kirk thing. And Charlie commented on it as well. He handled it the right way. He thought it was, you could see it here. He thought it was hilarious. And yeah, Charlie Kirk, you can't really hate the guy. He handled it great. And I only saw a clip or two of this, and actually it was pretty funny. Cartman is saying, "Yeah, I'm the master debater. Who wants to debate the master debater?" And he's right there on his computer in the bathroom. He's like, "Leave me alone, Mom. I'm master debating." And it's actually funny because that's what it is. You know, they're actually it's actually great political satire. I think so profound. You know, it's like a great comic. Because that's what it is. There's no real change of opinion. There's no real philosophy being advanced in these debates. It's just masturbation. That's what it is. It's got no end. It's not going to. There's not going to be anything fruitful coming from that. They're just going to get each other off. That's what it is in these debates. So you see here a South Park episode making fun of Charlie Kirk, pulled from Comedy Central, so it's off of TV. Remains on Paramount Plus though. It's interesting because Paramount bought the entire UFC. They bought out the ESPN deal. So it's I find that interesting, but I don't know enough about that, so I won't get into it. But it got pulled. This episode got pulled because it was, obviously about Charlie Kirk. Exactly 5 weeks after the episode comes out, he was killed, which makes September 11th the 36th day after the episode aired, right? So read into that what you will. I think more compelling than the numbers there, 3s and 6s, more compelling is the fact that Charlie Kirk was actually featured in this episode. More compelling than that, with South Park's history of featuring topics that come to pass in real life, they make allegations about people and then it comes out to be true in the future, right? On top of all that, though, the start of the season got pushed back, and that tells that I found interesting to me. It was supposed to be July 9th, but it got pushed to July 23rd. This is season 27, which means that could be completely unrelated, right? 2-week delay. Or it could be delaying that Charlie Kirk episode to have a different timing, to have a different effect. And the reason I say that is because this episode, the most recent episode of South Park, is called Walk is Dead. Walk is Dead. It came out September 3rd, 9/3. It came out 1 week before Charlie's death, right? This is episode 332. Episode 4 of the 27th season. Now, Wok is, of course, they have this whole thing with the Asian restaurants. Wok is like an Asian food bowl. So, what the episode actually is saying is woke is dead. Because they did this whole episode about Charlie Kirk. They have Mr. Mackey being the immigration agent, and constantly there's the Trump is a character in South Park, and so is Satan and Jesus. And oh, by the way, this promo for that season 27, it has on the board there all the South Park characters, and it says South Park is back. You see Kenny there, by the way. If you don't know who Kenny is, he's there with the orange hoodie. And then you have Jesus there, the character, and as it all, South Park is crossed out because they have Jesus. The whole thing about Jesus being the savior, right? I don't think any of this is a coincidence. I think their political commentary is, I think it's valuable. I haven't actually seen these episodes, but I fucking should, probably. But this woke is dead thing, I'll get into that soon. But the next episode is going to be 333. I don't know what that episode is called or when it's going to be released, but episode 333 is going to be the first episode after Charlie Kirk's death. Sounds like it's going to be this Wednesday. I don't know how it works with South Park. I'm curious to see what it's going to be. Because 330 gets taken down on September 11th. It's so crazy to be killed the day before 9/11, to pull the cartoon that is mocking you on September 11th. That's not a coincidence, man. And I will get into some of these numbers now. Charlie Kirk, you look at his initials, it's CK. C is the third letter, K is the 11th. So 311, you got 3 11s being 33. I'm sure people have pointed that out before. They released this picture of him. This is right before he got shot. You know, you see that. This is infamous now, images like this. And you've got these 47 hats trumping, of course, the 47th president. Well, he's not just the 47th, he's the 45th as well. 4 plus 5 is 9, and 4 plus 7 is 11. So you've got 9/11, right? COVID-19, I've talked about the 9 and the 10 there. Anyway. 47 is also 3 11s, because 4 plus 7 is 11, so you got 47, 47, 47, these 3 hats. The way it's framed, that's giving you 3 11s, okay? So I am pointing out 33s now, because they're there. And this guy was shot in the neck, and I thought, just like Kennedy. And then I actually had to watch the Kennedy assassination again. Turns out the official story is he got shot like in the back. It wasn't quite the neck, it was a little bit lower. But what I remember is that he has this moment where he's kind of leaning over, and then he has the shot to the head. So he was already impacted there, and I thought instantly this is similar to the Kennedy assassination. Of course, this was more vicious and graphic. I think it's indicative of what it takes to get people to pay attention. It's just going to be more and more. And maybe one day life will be like a South Park episode where people have to like explode and you have to, and nobody cares about anything, so it just becomes more and more sensational. Now, Kennedy, President, John F. Kennedy, he was killed November 22nd, 11/22. So it's 3 11s again. That's 33. And actually, he was killed at the same time of day that Charlie Kirk was killed. It was like just after noon. It was like 12:30. It's already interesting, but he has these tents. There are elements of ritual mockery here. He has these tents over his head, Charlie Kirk, on this tour, because this was the American Comeback Tour, right? So he had American Comeback Tour, and then the tents, and on the tents it said, "Prove me wrong." This is like Charlie and Ben Shapiro got popular for doing this. They say, "Prove me wrong." They go sit there and they debate people. So imagine that. Prove me wrong, and then you get shot by a college student. You get, like, as in that's your rebuttal to your debate. I really think it's a very cruel mockery. It's like a cold ass mockery, Now, this American Comeback tour reminded me of Michael Jackson's This Is It tour. I think these men were mocked. I think it's ritual mockery leading up to sacrifice. That's what they do with these golden boys that captivate the heart of the nation. They had Michael Jackson on TV since he was a child. Uh, then all these years later, after everything, they have him looking there like so broken, unrecognizable from his former self. And Michael Jackson was doing the This Is It tour at the time, right before he died. He had a big documentary. They were filming it everywhere. It was This Is It. This is it. Michael Jackson's back. He's going to do music. He was saying that he's going to expose a lot of injustice in the world, right? Remember that? He was literally saying this is it. And to me, there are these elements that we're going to take him out, telling the world, this is it. This is the end of Michael Jackson. And here is one of these guys, the most famous prove me wrong guy, and this is how they prove him wrong, so to speak. Both the killings of JFK and the homicide of Michael Jackson, which is a homicide, by the way, they actually convicted the doctor of poisoning him, involuntarily, of course, but they did. So it is a killing. Both of these are examples of a ritual called the killing of the king. And you may have come across this already, is that this is a killing of the king ritual with Charlie Kirk. Of course, his birth name is Charles, King Charles. That is currently the King of England. Who wears the pinky ring, by the way? Royalty does wear a pinky ring. Not. Well, let me read you some of this. Use in the British royal family. Now, well, why do I say pink? Why am I talking about the pinky ring? Because his wedding ring, remember, had this moment in the video where it fell out and it seemed to settle in on the pinky, for a moment at least, and then fell off again. That of course wasn't the way that was reported. Is his ring morphs onto his pinky, so the pinky ring thing is absolutely there, right? Now, the use of the left hand pinky finger as the wedding ring and royal signet or initial ring of the British royal family is an ironclad tradition dating back to the sons of Queen Victoria. Okay. King George V. Oh no, they didn't wear it. King George V didn't wear it. Prince Philip, consort to Queen Elizabeth, wore his father's signet ring until sometimes in the 70s. Okay, so this pinky ring. King Charles, the current king, he wears it. He wears the official signet of the Prince of Wales. The ring is nearly 175 years old. So the crazy thing is, this is obviously a Wikipedia article. The citation is from the book called Prince of Wales. And the crazy thing is, I had that book for the longest. I got it from my uncle. And I had it on my shelf for a long, long time. And I could open it up and actually check this so I could show you about the pinky ring. But I threw it out. I threw out the Prince of Wales because the cover was like a fucking shit-eating grin of this guy when he was younger, and I just couldn't take it anymore, and one day I just threw it out, and I shouldn't have, because it would actually be useful here. But regardless of that fact, so if there are some video shenanigans of the ring falling onto the pinky, this is why. This is the kind of research that I would expect the natural law, truth, and freedom movement to be doing. King Charles now, the killing of the king ritual. Of course, his name is Charles James Kirk. So there's a middle name James. King Charles, King James, Kirk. We'll talk about that. Kirk means church. Kennedy was also a killing of the king ritual. He was known as Camelot. The whole thing about King Arthur, right? English kings. This is the beginning of a slew of connections here to European royalty, and I'm not just gonna tie shit together. I'm gonna tell you why I think this is important. The way I see it, the reason for all this is all these rituals that they're doing, 9/11, all of them, they're for the bringing in of the new world, which is really just a rebirth of the old world. They want the old world back. Okay, it's like the Roman Empire and the British Empire, all these empires, they used to run the world, and they want to centralize it. They actually did centralize the world. They want it again with more of an iron grip. They want to continue this thing, like a never-ending cycle that they keep refreshing with the blood of the innocent. Like, who was it that said that the blood of that the tree of freedom needs to be refreshed with the blood of patriots and tyrants? Same idea. Now, there's the most famous Charles is Charles V, the Holy Roman Emperor. He he was the emperor of everything. Of course, this is a Habsburg king. He was the original empire on which the sun never sets. The personal union of the European and American territories he ruled was the first collection of realms labeled the empire on which the sun never sets. So he was the emperor from 1516 to 1556. Netherlands, Austria, Spain, the Holy Roman Empire. That's Charles. So, some things about Charlie Kirk that we'll kind of have to take a couple steps back to take a few steps forward. The guy's from Arlington Heights, which I didn't know. The guy is a couple, miles from me, a couple neighborhoods away. Northwest suburbs are a breeding ground. The northwest suburbs of Chicago are a breeding ground for politicians, like Hillary Clinton's from Park Ridge. Another one is Barack Obama, Hyde Park, right? Not that he's born there, but he's from there. Basically, there's the Obama house. There was. You may say, hold on, that has nothing to do with anything. Those are Democrats, right? No difference. They're all the same. They're bred like that. They're built like that to be these popular figures that are just gonna talk and talk and talk and talk and mislead the nation. Just talkers who keep you away from true living and real action. That's all politicians. And by the way, in Hyde Park, they don't have the Obama house anymore. They're building this thing called the Obama Presidential Center. I just found out about that 2 days ago. But I was wondering what it was because I see that they're building like a giant fucking rock. They're building like a giant rock over there. And it's going to be the Obama Presidential Center. And the reason I know this is because I have a job. We're doing a project like 1 block away from there. To get there, I literally turn on a street called Blackstone. And there are all these, if you know anything about Chicago, you know the Black P Stones are one of the biggest gangs here, the Stones. But this symbolism, the motif of the black stone is of course Saturn. In other words, the cube of Metatron, right? The black stones are known for being Muslims. Not that every stone is a Muslim, but there's an occult under that gang of the black stones. There is an occult, or maybe we shouldn't even say occult, but then there's a tradition of knowledge that is tied in with the Muslim movement, the black Muslim movement. Of course, they have the black cube in Mecca, right? And the black cube has always been the dark symbol of power of this planetary royalty. So, including King James and Charles, they were all initiated into the veneration and use of that black cube. And now they're building like a black rock, over there, Barak, right? Remembering the date, September 10th, when this happened. Now, it's not only the day before 9/11, but it's significant on itself. In 2008, September 10th, the same day as Charlie Kirk was killed, they powered up. That was the day they opened up the Large Hadron Collider, where they're crashing together particles and trying to, in their own words, break the fabric of space and time. That's the black cube. This idea of manipulating the space-time continuum, that's the black cube. That having to do with AI, computer language like 666. Of course, the cube has 6 sides, 6 faces, right? Yeah. Black cubes and black mirrors and all of this stuff that is all related with this overlapping of technology and how it has to do with superseding or taking over the natural, colorful, fluid and nature, natural reality, right? So the Large Hadron Collider is powered up on the same day. Now, I mentioned that because I mentioned the black rocks, right? Now let's talk about the place where this happened, where Charlie was killed. It was in Orem, Utah, Orem. those are the same letters as Rome, and I believe that is the reason they named it that. I'll tell you why I think that. It also means more. If you rearrange those, it just means more. And of course, Utah is the home of the Mormons. Mormons. Orem, Utah. Here it is here. It's close to Provo, and yeah, it's a city in Utah. Now, history is where I wanna settle in here. At one time, the area was known as Sharon, a biblical name for a mostly level strip of land running between the mountains and the sea. And it's also the name of the Vermont birth town of Joseph Smith, the founder of the Mormon Church. So, this used to be called the Sharon Plain. Now, when they say the biblical term Sharon, that what they're saying is that's a place in Israel. That's a place in Israel, and here's a map of this. Well, this is actually a map of Israel showing the occupied Palestinian territories. The reason I show it to you here, and you also see, no, I didn't show you the biblical Israel. Well, it's right there where you see Tel Aviv. It's there between the Mediterranean Sea and the northern half of the West Bank. So it's kind of in the center. It's between the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. That is Sharon. Biblical Israel, man. And I point that out for a few reasons. I know that while it may not be popular to make a connection between the Jews and the Mormons, I do make that connection between the Jews and the Mormons. Here's why. No religion in the United States has worldly power the way that the Mormon Church does in the state of Utah. You know it's true, guys. Mormons run Utah. You got separation of church and state in the other 49 states. Not so much in that one called Utah. And for all of this stuff, I strongly urge you to check out the Mormon Stories podcast channel. Mormon Stories podcast by John DeLynn. Okay? He talks to all these people. He has thousands of episodes. He has helped uncover a lot of these crimes and publicize a lot of these crimes and injustices that bad people do, thanks to the power and influence of being in the Mormon Church hierarchy. There's a very worldly hierarchy. And the Mormon Church is known for being very wealthy as well. They have their own bank. They're very good with making money. They have an interesting blending of existing within a technological high-tech system, but they're also very fundamental and close. They keep things close to the chest. That there's a lot of control there. There's a lot of control within their own people. So yeah, that's like the Jewish society, isn't it? So Joseph Smith founded the Mormon Church. Joseph Smith was actually born in the town called Sharon, right? In 1831, Smith and his followers, I'm reading a bit from the biography, right, the story of Joseph Smith, the guy who founded the Mormon Church. He was the original, right? He was planning to build a communal Zion in the American heartland. And the first place that they went to, they first gathered in Kirtland, Ohio. Kirtland, Ohio. Now, Kirtland is of course Kirkland is of course Kirk. So multiple connections now between the place he was actually killed, tying into Joseph Smith, and that place is the biblical is the Sharon, named after the biblical Sharon. Connection between the Mormons and the Jews, and then Joseph Smith, actually the founder of this Mormon Church. By the way, it was a Mormon boy that killed him. The shooter was Mormon. They first gathered in a place called Kirtland. Now you may say it's not the same spelling, but it's the same word. This is the etymology of Kirkland, and you'll see Kirkland is a surname. It originated from a habitational name with variant spellings: Kirtland, so there's that word, and Kirtland from the English word Kirk, meaning church, plus land. It was originally given blah blah blah, all these places named Kirkland. Kirk means church. And Charles James Kirk was killed by a Mormon young man in a Mormon state. Now, 400 years before they opened that Hadron Collider, so talking September 10th, 1608, That was when Captain John Smith was elected the president of the governing council of the Jamestown colony. So Jamestown colony becomes the first permanent English settlement in North America, and John Smith is elected as the leader. Okay, so he's the first leader. Okay, or I don't know if he was officially the first, but he is surely known for that. Okay, it's not the same as Joseph Smith, no relation, right? Different Smiths. But that date I found there when I was studying just the date itself, right? Now, King James, it was the Jamestown colony because it was after King James. That's, of course, who colonized America. That's why it was called Jamestown. So if you're tracking my train of thought here, the American stars, they spend their life inspiring society, yeah, but also distracting us from true issues. Kennedy, Elvis, Michael Jackson, and then they're killed. So when they're killed, it is done in this pool of symbols and references to the old monarchs and emperors, because it is this ancient hereditary lineage of kings and emperors that are behind government, military, and intelligence. That's who runs it. Now today they're the occult, they're the power brokers, the social engineers. Same people. They're behind these rituals. They don't make all the symbols, but they certainly align with those symbols, with the perennial historical narratives and the hermetic symbolism. That's what they do. That's why you have the killing of the king ritual specifically in America. I found it interesting that in football season just started. The Green Bay Packers played Washington September 11th, the day after. So it's Washington, the capital of the country, and Green Bay would be like the anti-capital. It's basically like a small town. So it's the complete opposite, right? There's like a left and right dynamic here. And the Washington used to be the Redskins, and they're the Commanders now. It's like it's not like a Mandela effect, but it's so poetic, right? Because the Redskins is like the indigenous roots of this country, right? It's a reference to the Indians, like going from close tribal free living to commanders, which is like an urban centralized army. Yeah, but maybe nothing, right? September 10th, also, that's the last thing I'm going to say about the date. It's the last time they used the guillotine. The last time the French guillotine was used as a public execution was September 10th. I think it was 1977. And this is so interesting because the guillotine cuts the head at the neck. So hitting your voice, separating your head from your voice, separating the mind from the body. The neck is like that connection there. And that's, of course, where Charlie was shot. And that's also where JFK was first shot, right? First in the body, then the head, right? And this is the fundamental split, guys. This is how the occult manipulates society, by separating the two. Separating the mind and the body to be against each other. Now, Charlie, he roasted and toasted these students. He tore them up. Just like Reagan roasted and toasted Jimmy Carter in that debate. The left has always been the body. They've been the ones who are running to action, and the right has always been the head. I hope I don't have to explain that. That's very clear then. So, but I hope you're seeing why they do the killing of the king ritual. That's why they do it. Israel's connected here as well. Another James connection is that Epstein's Island is actually called Little St. James. So there's James again, right? This guy's middle name. Of course, Epstein, according to Whitney Webb's awesome work, is deeply connected to Israeli and American intelligence. But really, it's beyond a single group or country. Killing the king is about fracturing the people, fracturing their spirit, their mind, cutting the head from the body. Make them scared, make them frozen, make them act like animals. Also, just by brutally removing someone that you saw as an idol, psychologically you're making those people desire and hold on to their idols even more. Because they're scared that that'll happen again. See, also remember, Charlie Kirk was known as a kingmaker. They actually say this on his little Wikipedia background. This is because he got Trump elected. It is said he's a close ally, and he has said that he got the youth to vote for him. And described as somewhat of a kingmaker by the New York Times, right? It was described as a driving force. So that's the killing of the king here. Another ritual they do is called the cremation of care, where instead of removing the golden shining king, they remove the pure white lady, who's symbolized by the dove. So everything having to do with Columbia, Princess Diana, all these things that are women or things that are named after women. That's what the train stabbing was. I see the train stabbing as cremation of care. But let's go deeper into these occult traditions, right? Specifically Masonry. So we're going to talk about the shooter now a little more. Tyler Robinson is the name of the guy. He was caught, the alleged shooter, right? But this is the guy we get. So this is the symbol that we're going to look at. He was caught after a 33-hour manhunt. They made sure to report that, right? Of course, 33 is the honorary highest degree of Freemasonry. You see it here. Reuters, suspect in Charlie Kirk murder in custody after 33-hour manhunt. Kash Patel said during the press conference that by identifying a suspect in just 33 hours, they had made historic progress for Charlie. Historic progress is interesting because we're talking about history here, right? He also said, lastly, to my friend Charlie Kirk, rest now, brother, Patel concluded. We have the watch, and I'll see you in Valhalla. This, like Erica Kirk's speech, Charlie's wife, I find it distasteful. This as well, what he's saying. We'll see you in Valhalla. But the Valhalla is interesting because of the connection to Norse mythology, which is not very American, right? But it is very occult. Let's get into that now. When we talk about Tyler Robinson, we already broke down Charles James Kirk. His first, middle, and last name is connected to what he represented in this event. So is Tyler Robinson. A Tyler is a Masonic position. It's a job, literally. A Tyler is someone who stands at the door and guards the actual event. That's what a Tyler is. So here's from the Staffordshire Provincial Vault, like actual Masonic publications here. The Tyler of a Masonic lodge is an appointed officer of the lodge and is sometimes known as the outer guard. His collar jewel is the sword, and he sits outside the closed door of the lodge, armed with a drawn sword ready for the defense of his post. The Tyler's duties and principal role is to ensure that only those who are duly qualified are allowed to enter the lodge room. He guards against the Cowans and intruders to Freemasonry, and he symbolically refuses entrance to anyone uninitiated in the craft. I think that's what happens here. So imagine you got a Tyler. His job is to actually guard and cut somebody down with a sword if somebody who's not worthy tries to enter the secret chamber. And this put together with the killing of the king ritual and the mockery of it, it's like he is the kingmaker. He's not really the king. He's the one who gets taken out. He didn't really get initiated into the craft, whatever you want to call it, right? This may be just a loose connection, right? It may be no connection at all. Maybe, one of these things could be a coincidence, or like a couple of them, right? But I'm pointing like 30. So some of this may not apply, and it may just be an amazing connection, which happens in like life, like in my life. I'll see symbolism. I'm not putting occult symbolism in my life, and nobody else is, but it happens. So, but anyway, I think that's why they chose that name, of course, Tyler. He's 22 years old. Now, I'm not very gematria heavy on my stuff, right? But I will do straight up gematria where I think it matters, and this is where I think it matters. Remember that 332nd episode, the last episode of South Park, only a week before Charlie was dead? It was called Walk is Dead. Now the word walk, 3 letters, of course a misspelling of woke, or an intentional misspelling. You have W, the 23rd letter, plus O, the 15th letter, plus K, the 11th letter. You get 49, reducing to 13. it's the same as Kirk. The four letters of Kirk is also 49. 11 plus 9 plus 18 plus 11. So, of course, the story goes, the reason you do gematria is that things that have a identical numerical equivalency are replaceable. They're like the same way that notes on different octaves have the same resonance. Okay, so what that sentence is saying is Kirk is dead, or you could say 49 is dead, right? 49 reducing to 13. In the case of the word walk, which is 13, is 31 backwards. Charlie Kirk was 31 years old. Now, with Kirk, the 49 doesn't reduce to 13, it reduces to 22, right? Different amount of letters, it reduces to 22. And 22 is how old Robinson is. So you've got Robinson being 22 and Kirk 31 backwards. The fact that it's backwards is not a stretch, like Zachary K. Hubbard does. There's one person I will call out by name because although I learned this gematria stuff originally from him, he takes a bunch of words from the dictionary and ties it all in, and ties a lot of shit in that doesn't explain why. It's just fucking numbers. It's just, you know. What I'm saying is the opposite of a stretch. It's backwards because Robinson and Kirk are mirror images of each other, and I'm going to explain how. They're actually telling a story here. But that number 49, I also don't think it's an accident, and that is because of Psalm 49. Because when Kirk is out here quoting the Bible and his wife is quoting the Bible, it's all about these Bible verses, which, of course, the Bible just happens to be written with this like deep gematria, and there's like a crazy numerology in the Bible, right? And Psalm 49, am I going to read the whole psalm? I don't know. Yes. So, hear this, all you peoples. Listen, all who live in the world, both low and high, rich and poor alike. My mouth will speak words of wisdom. The meditation of my heart will give you understanding. I will turn my ear to a proverb, and the harp I will expound, and with the harp I will expound my riddle. Why should I fear when the evil days come, when wicked deceivers surround me, those who trust in their wealth and boast of their great riches? No one can redeem the life of another, or give to God a ransom for them. The ransom for a life is costly. No payment is ever enough, so that they should live on forever and not see decay. For all can see that the wise die, and the foolish and the senseless also perish, leaving their wealth to others. Their tombs will remain their houses forever, their dwellings for endless generations, though they had named lands after themselves. People, despite their wealth, do not endure. They are like the beasts that perish. This is the fate of those who trust in themselves and of their followers who approve their sayings. Why am I reading it like I'm in church? I don't know why I do that. They are like sheep and are destined to die. Death will be their shepherd, but the upright will prevail over them in the morning. Their forms will decay in the grave, far from their princely mansions. But God will redeem me from the realm of the dead. He will surely take me to himself. Do not be overawed when others grow rich, when the splendor of their houses increases, for they will take nothing with them when they die. Their splendor will not descend with them. Though while they live they count themselves blessed, and people praise you when you prosper, they will join those who have gone before them, who will never again see the light of life. People who have wealth but lack understanding are like the beasts that perish. It's very heavy on wealth and having money, and you can't take it to your grave. That's Psalm 49. How does it relate to Kirk? The significance of that to me is the occult is saying to whoever's reading this, we are God in society. So, about Kirk, we built him up. We take him out, he's nothing. We own them all. We own Kirk, we own Alex Jones, we own all these guys that you look up to, right? You said you are praised when you prosper. Those are all these voices that they build up. All the killing of the king rituals, they built them up. We made JFK. We made Michael Jackson. This is how the occult thinks. And I'm not saying that. They're saying that. Now, along with this theme of riches and wealth, Charlie is clearly representing the conservative side ideologically, which is, of course, they're more wealth oriented. With liberals always wanting to take care of the poor, they don't want wealth inequality. They want to even redistribute when the conservatives are like, hey, no, you got money, you get to keep it. They're correct in that. They're right. Um, Now, Tyler Robinson in this scenario, because he's the one who killed Kirk, he would represent that. I'm just, I'm crossing the T's and dotting the I's just to kind of explain this last point. I'm getting to the last point in my big symbolism breakdown. The last name Robinson, what is Robinson? It's, of course, the son of Robin, Robin's son. Now, what kind of a Robin? We're not talking about Batman's sidekick. Who's Robin? Robin is, of course, Robin Hood. It's all about Robin Hood here. And Psalm 49 here is telling you about the rich and the poor. Oh. And you're creating this duality, this polarity that these rituals are working off of. Robin Hood is just one of these characters in this epic back and forth throughout time. Now, who is Robin Hood? He is a legendary heroic outlaw, originally depicted in English folklore, right? According to the legend, he was a highly skilled archer and swordsman. Now, the modern day archer and swordsman is somebody who can shoot a gun, right? In some versions of the legend, he is depicted as being of noble birth. Now, the noble birth thing, if he was from a Mormon family, that's like the noble birth thing. They have a connection to Judaism and all that. Mormons are very it's based on who. It's very hereditary based, and then the polygamous, sections of the Mormon church. It's about who your dad was or who you were in the church. It's like about your church hierarchy and being born into it as well. Today, Robin Hood is most closely associated with his stance of robbing the rich to give to the poor. There you go. And I actually found some. This is from 1440. Okay, I got it from Wayback Machine Archive. They talk about this famous murder, Robin Hood, as well as Little John, together with their accomplices, so on and so forth. They call him, like some of the earliest literature that talks about Robin Hood calls him a sicarius, call him a sicario. Sicarius means dagger man, but it actually means assassin. It's the Latin word for murder or assassin. So when we talk about a murderer and an assassin, that is what Robin Hood was called. It's the same word as dagger. Descends from its use to describe the sicari, which were the assassins operating in Roman Judea. We already have connections to Rome and Judea, right, in this whole thing. So Robinson is supposed to be Robin Hood here. And now some of these qualities of Robin Hood, they talk about him here in these ballads. They made songs about him in these early accounts. Partisanship of the lower classes. So he was for the lower classes. His devotion to the Virgin Mary. So he had an affinity towards the women, which I'll talk about as well at the end. But the maternal aspect of the church as far as the paternal. And Charlie Kirk is all about the paternal, right? All this stuff about his stances on abortion and traditional, female values, which at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff I agree with Charlie with, man. Like some of this stuff, So, look, I'm not. I think I've proven I'm not partisan with this whole thing. His associated special regard for women. Okay, again, this is where I'm with Robin Hood more on this, right? Charlie here, Robin Hood there. Also, his outstanding skill as an archer. So he's a good shooter. This is one of the things that get people marveled at. It's like, oh, it can't be that kid, because no way he hit him perfectly. Well, Robin Hood can fucking shoot a bow. That's what it is. Also, his anti-clericalism means he was against the church. There you go. Now, the crazy thing is, and this is really the last thing, is that the story goes that Robin Hood died at a place called Kirklees. He died at Kirklees. And you can look this up. It's Robin Hood's grave. It's the name given to a monument in Kirklees Park Estate in West Yorkshire, England. near the now ruined Kirklees Priory. It is alleged to be the burial place of English folk hero Robin Hood. And this is from a ballad. There's a ballad here. Robin Hood's death, first recorded in the 17th century, contains the story which has now become the traditional account. It was said that Robin Hood was sick and he was some woman was helping him, and she was the prioress of Churchleys, or Kirkley, right? Because Kirk means church, especially in Old English. So she was supposed to heal him by letting his blood, right, to drain his blood, and then she allowed him to bleed to death on purpose. That's how that's one of the versions of the story. Another version is that Robin Hood is like a final act, and his final act is he shot an arrow out of the window of his room and was telling his friend Little John to bury him where that arrow falls. So, just so you're getting me here, Robin Hood is buried at Kirklees where he shot the arrow, and he said that wherever I hit, that's where I'll be buried. And that's what happened here. This ends with the Robin Hood and Charlie Kirk and the King Charles two becoming one, which I'll get to. But I want to read this poem here because I'm gonna let Robin Hood tell you himself. He said, I never heard fair maid in all my time, nor at mine end shall it be, but give me my bent bow in my hand, and a broad arrow, I'll let it flee. And where this arrow is taken up, there shall my grave digged be. Lay a green sod under my head, and another at my feet, and lay my bent bow by my side, which was my music sweet, and make my grave of gravel and green, which was most right and meet. Let me have length and breadth enough, with a green sod under my head, that they may say, where I am dead, here lies bold Robin Hood. These words they readily granted him, which did bold Robin please, where they buried bold Robin Hood within the fair Kirklees. They buried him within the fair Kirklees. Thus, he that never feared bow nor spear was murdered by letting blood, and so, loving friend, the story it ends of valiant Robin Hood. So, Robin Hood is shooting at the spot in the ground at Kirklees. Wherever it lands, that's where he will forever remain. And so then his story is forever connected to Kirklees, and that's where his grave is. That's what happened here. You have Robin Hood and you have King Charles, and the two become one. And that's just as this technocratic, futuristic system is going to do with us. They're going to throw all these things at us. They're going to polarize them into two. They're going to put mind and body against each other. They're going to take away our symbols. They're going to split the body from the head, and they will fuse the two, so then they will have a result where they are controlling the entire world, blending the old with the new, and refreshing their control system which has reigned through time. The left and the right wing will be fused together because you are one and the same. The right and the left, and the new world and the old world are one and the same. That is the point. That is why they do these rituals. That is why they do predictive programming in South Park, because some of these people, some of them, not all of them, but key figures, are part of this. They see themselves as descending from this British royalty, not just British, but worldly power, and they have this history. They align with these symbols in order for them to take every measure they possibly could to ensure that they win at the end of the day. That's why this shit happens. The end. Okay? That is my occult breakdown of the Charlie Kirk killing. Now, as I sign off, I have to have some fun over here. I think this is the longest show I've ever done. So I'm gonna have some fun. I found it funny that as Robin Hood is dying, he's very proud to say, I never heard fair maid in all my life. He was like an outlaw and a robber and a killer and all this, but as he's dying, he's holding his head high saying, I never heard a woman know, Robin Hood likes his ladies. Yes, okay. Now, I find that funny. What I also find funny is Robin Hood's gravestone inscription. Like, what his gravestone actually says. I'm going to read it, and And I'm not gonna read the translation. I'm gonna just get it from the actual, because it's like pseudo Old English. So Old English is a little bit different, but this looks like it's not even like really Old English. It's like a weird slang Old English, and it looks and sounds so much like ghetto tech slang. I couldn't believe it. I was laughing reading this. So here is the epitaph on the monument. Here underneath this little steen, but it's stone. Here underneath this little stone lays Robert Earl of Huntingdon. Ne'er archer were as he so good, and people called him Robin Hood. This is sick, but means such outlaws as he and his men will England never see again. Basically, yes. So he was such a good outlaw and an archer, England will never see see him again, and it was Robin Hood, right? And that's how the story goes. Here underneath this little stone. And if you don't believe me, this is it. It actually says that, man. And look, it said, oh, that's probably a forgery. Somebody wrote that on the stone. It doesn't matter. This is how the legend goes, and truth is stranger than fiction sometimes, man. So below is a picture of the real gravestone of Robin Hood on the Kirklees estate. As you can see, the epitaph is a bit different from the ballad version. This photo was taken by David Hepworth with the permission of Lady Armitage. Please do not copy without permission. So, last thing I want to say is, I'm sorry, Lady Armitage. Lady Armitage, I'm sorry to you. Unlike Robin Hood, I may have hurt a lady or two. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week on This Week in Tyranny.